Hello there guys, welcome back to another C# tutorial. Today's tutorial we are going to cover a control called DataGridView. Then we'll try to create a simple to-do list application. Okay, so we start by going to File, select a new, and we're going to create a new project. From this list we're going to use Windows Forms application and use the default name and hit OK. Now, the controller we're going to talk about today, it is called DataGridView. And if I open this one, go to D, where's that? Okay, there's DataGridView. Okay, and its job is to display a data grid. Right now it doesn't display anything at all, and this control can display data in one of two ways. Either you bind it to something, to some data, and it's gonna render it automatically, or you specify the data yourself and add them manually. So we are gonna cover the way when you do things manually. So if you click on this small square, you'll get the following. You have options to enable adding, editing, and deleting. Okay, no problem with that. Or you could add columns. So click on adding column, you specify the programming name, and you specify, for example, the type and the header text. Okay, so let's say you could display information about people. So here we have name, and also you might want to have age, as you can see, and you click close, and when you look at the information you see this, right? So if you're on the application right now, you see there are no data, but you can add actually something here right away. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with that. I've seen this in other programs. Anyway, so this is one way to do it. Now, what about validating the data and checking if what you have entered is correct or wrong? For this, the data grid will not do this automatically. You'll have to do it yourself. Okay, so let me go and cover a number of properties before going to our applications. And what we have the anchor property. You are already familiar with that. Okay, we have allow user to add rows. If you set this to false, you will see that the row with the star is disappeared, and you might be wondering, well, how am I going to add data? Well, you can add it at runtime. Okay, let us try to add some data at runtime. So I'm gonna double click this one. Now the control is called DataGridView1, and you put a dot and you access its members. So there are rows, okay, and you can add number of rows, and here it's gonna expect a parameter array. Okay, you can either pass a DataGridView row, or you can pass an integer representing how many rows to add. Okay, or you could pass a number of values, okay, like an array. So here we're gonna say Smith 22, something like that, and DataGridView1.rows.add Michael 40. Okay, now let's run this application, and you can see the information right away. So it's very straightforward, very easy. Okay, so this is how you add information at runtime. Let's go back and continue investigating the properties we have. So you have allow user to add rows, allow user to delete rows. Actually, you can delete them by pressing the header. So let's test that. You can click here and press delete in the keyboard, and that will do the job for you. Okay, so you might want to disable that if you want user to read data only. Allow user to order columns. By this it means, well, if you have this information, you can drag this one and this one and move it. Wait a second, I should be able to reorder them. Was that set to? Oh, that's false. I'm sorry. Now it is true. So now I'm gonna click here, and I can, change the order. Okay, so lots of properties anyway, and you have resize columns and stuff like that. Okay, allow user to resize rows, etc., etc. Okay, and well, you have multiple select. If you want to allow the user to select multiple rows, you can set read only to prevent users from changing data. Left to right if you want to change the direction of the data grid view. Okay, and you have row header width, how many let's say units. So here we have 50, so you can now, this is kind of wider than before. You can change that if you would like to. Okay, you can allow the changing of the row header. Okay, and so on. So there are many properties. However, what's important is this: edit columns. When you go to and edit columns, you will see something like that, which allows you to display the actual columns in DataGridView and set the properties for each one. Okay, you can set the header name, which is different from the programming name. Tooltip text, if it is visible or not. Sometimes you want to put some properties and link them to the row, so you want the column to be invisible. If you want some columns to be read only or not, if you want them to be resizable, if you want to specify how they are sorted, and stuff like that. Okay, so this is pretty much data grid control, and in many cases it solves the problem of displaying some tabular information. Okay, but today we're gonna create a simple to-do list application, and we're gonna take advantage of this control. So I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna go to File and select a new project, and I'm gonna call this simple to do. Okay, and I'm gonna hit OK. Okay, save this one. So we have this form. I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna call this to this C# to do app. Enter. Now, first thing I want to do is adding some buttons or menus, let's say, to be more precise. So where is the tool? Where's that? Where is that? Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong place. Where is that? There you go. We have this one. And what we want to add here is a file menu. We want to add save, and yeah, we want to add load. Well, actually, to-do list should save the information right away. So save load makes no sense. Sorry about that. But rather, we want to add edit options. Okay, I'm gonna say edit to do entry, and we have to say remove to do entry. Okay, and we can also put an add to do entry. Okay, here we're gonna say help, and there's going to be an about button, something like that, just to make ourselves comfortable working with menus as we have seen before. And we are going to add the DataGridView. Where's the DataGridView? We're going to drag this and drop it here on the form, and I'm going to make sure that it covers the whole form. Also, I will go and change its name. I will use DGV to make it shorter and easier to access. Okay, and what also we're gonna do, we are gonna, well, change the anchor property to be all sides. That's wonderful. And I wonder if I want the user to enter the information directly in this one. Yeah, because here I won't allow the user to enter the data directly. I want to control this via form. Okay, so I won't enable adding, editing, or deleting. Okay, I will change the selection mode. I'll leave it as it is actually. But there's a selection mode. I will, where's that? I wanted to select the full row actually. For row select. There we go. I want this one to be applied. That's not a problem. And what about the number of columns? So here I'm gonna add the first column. I'm gonna call this to do, and this is gonna be a read-only add, and I will put notes. Okay, and I'm gonna close it. Now I want these columns to fill the whole display of the DataGridView. So there is a property. Where is that? Auto size column mode. It's set to none. I'm gonna choose full. And now if you look at this one, check this out. I'm gonna resize this one, and you see now the columns are filling everything. So let's run this. So far so good, no problem there, right? Okay, the window doesn't appear in the center of the screen, so I'm gonna click at the window and make sure the startup position is screen center. Okay, now that's solved. Let's start with how we are gonna add entries into this one. So I'm gonna create a form that will collect the information and add an entry to the DataGridView. So this form 1, I'm gonna add a new form, Windows form. There we go. And yeah. Yeah. So it's gonna be form 2, no problem there. Okay. Now this one I want it to be like a dialog. I want it to behave like a dialog. I don't want to be resizable. For this I'm gonna do what? Let's see. We have we don't want a control box. Form border style is fixed single, where the maximize box is set to false, the minimize box is set to false, and the form startup position is center screen, and the text property add to do, enter. Okay, so I have these, no problem there. Let's add some control into this form, and here I'm gonna place, I don't have to use it, but I want to practice things here a little bit. So we're gonna add a table layout here. Maybe I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger or wider to be more exact. Okay, there we go. And we will place some labels. This is the first label. Make a copy of that. Okay, and we need a text box. Click here, another click here, and a click here. And we select these guys. Make sure we go and change anchor property to be like this and enter. No problem. Problem solved. Now we click here, move this here. Okay. So here I'm gonna call this label to do, and the next one's gonna be notes. Okay. So this is very straightforward. We'll need to add 2 buttons now. this is the first button and this is going to be the second button. So button 1 and button 2. One's for OK and the other for cancel. Maybe I should put them here. Good. Okay. The other one is cancel and enter. Okay. So for the cancel, I'm going to say this dialog result equals dialog result dot cancel semicolon. Okay. And for this one, we are going to say this dot dialog result equals dialog result dot OK semicolon. That's wonderful, and things should be okay. Now, before returning a dialog result right away, actually you should make sure and validate what's written in these text boxes. For the first one, I'm going to change the name so that it's easier to remember. Don't have to, but anyway, it's better practice to do so. TX to do and enter. And the next one is going to be TX notes. TX notes. It's not that complicated, but anyway. So we need to put some validation here. Add some validation. So here, if TX to do dot text dot trim equals nothing. Now, what does that mean? TX to do means go to our TX to do control and retrieve the text and trim that text by removing all the empty spaces and at the beginning or the end of the text. So if there are some spaces or hidden characters that are not visible, just remove them. Okay, and if that actually, sorry, dot equals, if that equals to nothing, if the text after trimming all the hidden characters and the spaces equals nothing, then do not accept that entry. Give a message to the user, okay, because I don't want to store empty strings. Okay, so I'm gonna say message box dot show, and the message I'm gonna say you should enter some text, and here you should enter some caption, right? So I'm gonna say error, and you need to specify the button. So there's an enum which is message box buttons dot what do you want to display. I'm gonna say okay, and or all right, let me see. Wait a second, or I think, oops, oh sorry, or there is also, I'm sorry about that, there is, this means R, by the way, message box icons. You should R it with what kind of icons do you want. We're going to use an error, and you put a semicolon, and this dialog is going to be displayed. And finally, we are going to say return. And the reason for this, we don't want the execution to go and continue here, because this will result in closing our window and return an OK, which will tell the rest of the application that the entry was accepted. So you will have to do some processing. We don't want this to happen. Okay, so this is the first one. And oh, by the way, we could make the user go to the field. So we could just say focus on to do text, so the cursor goes there and the user correct things quickly. So this is the first thing to do. The other field to validate is the notes field, and here I'm gonna say notes. Actually, it's TX notes. So you should enter some notes, some text again, but this time we're gonna say TX notes. So it's the same message, no problem there. Otherwise, return OK. One last thing, we want to access these text boxes from outside this form. So I just select them and make sure that the modifier for them is not a private but rather public. Where is modifiers? Modifiers, there we go. And we click here and select public. That's wonderful. And now we can access them right away, no problem. So now when we go to edit and add entry, what will happen? So we first need to create an object. So we're going to say form2 obj equals new form2 semicolon, and then I'm going to say if form obj.show dialog equals dialog result dot OK. In that case we are going to say dgv.rows.add. Now I need to add two values, so it's going to be obj.txt2do.text.trim. And next I'm gonna obj.txtnotes.text.trim. Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay, so here we are showing a dialog, and the form will validate everything. If it returns OK, it means the entry accepted. Just get the value and add them to the DataGridView. It's as simple as that. So let's run this, and we have an error. Let's go. Above type. Wait a second. Oh, wait a second. I did something wrong here. I am kind of used to the message box in Vivi.net, so probably I made some mistakes. Let me check the overloaded method. So we have the string, we have buttons, string. Oh, I see. Sorry. The buttons. I just need to add a comma, not or. This is not like the one I'm used to. Maybe my mistake. Okay. So let's run this, and it is working. So now we're gonna edit and add entry. We're gonna hit OK, and you must enter some text. So it's focused here. I'm gonna say Smith, or no, Smith is meaningless. I'm gonna say buy some, well, I don't know, milk, whatever. Hit OK. You must enter some text. It's the notes now. Need some milk in the morning. Okay, and hit OK, and you get the values inserted right away. Very straightforward, very simple, and you can actually repeat the process. Now let's go and work on the edit and remove. Let's go here, and for the edit, I can create another form, or I can actually work on this one. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Let's go to form 1 and go to the edit. So I'm gonna make sure that first there's some value selected in the DataGridView. So if dgv dot selected rows dot count equals 0, in that case I'm gonna return. I won't do anything. Otherwise, I'm gonna create a new object. I'm gonna say form2 obj equals a new form2. So now we have a form, and now I'm gonna fill it. So obj.txt2do.text equals, and this is gonna be dgv selected rows of 0, the first selected row and the only one actually, dot cells of 0 dot value. Okay, and the next one is going to be obj.txt notes, okay, dot text equals dgv dot selected rows of 0 dot cells of 1 dot value, semicolon, and then I'm gonna do something like this, but rather Ctrl C. Okay, I'm gonna do something like this. dgv dot rows dot remove dgv dot selected rows of 0. Okay. Oh, I know why it is not. Never mind. Okay, this should work. Let me see. Oh, non-invocable member dot item. Wait a second. Get the collection of rows. Yeah. Oh, I'm getting things confused with VB. This is why working with VB a lot. Yeah, sorry. When you try to access a collection or a list, make sure to use the correct syntax. Right? Yeah, my mistake. These are treated like arrays, so you need to use square brackets. Okay, the curved brackets, these normal brackets are used for function calls. So here I will have to put square brackets here. My mistake. Sorry about that. I think this C should be capital. Let me see. And no, also another mistake. We have the V capital as well. Yep, now it's gonna work. So, and yet another mistake. Object to string. Actually, this one returns an object, so I need to do some casting. So there's gonna be string, of course. String. There we go. And now we're gonna run this. That's gonna work. Yes. And add entry A, B, and hit OK. I'm gonna say edit. So I have A, B, D, 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 O, O. Okay. Now edit works. We still have to work on the last one, which is remove. Before that, let me just stop this. Show the code quickly because I did the correction very quickly. You might not have seen it. So here, I use DataGridView, selected rows, and selected rows returns a list or a collection, and collection, list, and arrays are accessed by using a square bracket. Using square brackets. If you use the normal bracket, you will get an error. Cells also returns a collection or a list, and because of that, you will need square brackets. This is why I'm using this, and you access the value. So the meaning of this line is: go to DataGridView, go to the selected row, the first selected row, and the only one, by the way, and go to the cell, which is the first one, and get the value inside that cell. Cast it to a string and pass it to the text property in the tx-to-do control inside the object which represent the form. Okay, and something similar that happens here. No problem. So let's go and finish the last thing here, which is remove to do entry. So here we are going to add some validation. We're going to copy the validation from here just to make sure that row is being selected, and then we will use this statement to remove the value. So here we are removing the row that is being selected. This returns the selected row, and yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Now, one important thing is when I run this control, every time I have to enter the value again and again. In other words, the control or the application does not save the values. We need to save them. So the simplest thing I'm going to do here is, well, I can use files and save things, okay, or I could use settings. So let us work with files, and later on we will work with settings. With files, we can make a copy of the to-do list, okay, and use that if we copy the folder. But with settings, if you move the application, you will lose all your to-do list. So let's work with files. So we are going to need to update the code when there is a remove, or sorry, the file when there is a remove, there is an edit, or there is an add. Okay, so it is better to put that in a separate function, and I'm going to make a function here. Okay, so I'm going to say public void save to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is creating a big string that contains all the entries. So I'm going to say string vals equals nothing, and then I'm going to loop through all the rows for int I equals 0, I smaller than dgv.rows.count and I plus plus. And what am I going to do? I'm going to say vals equals this is going to be equal to what? Vals plus dgv dot rows of I dot cells of 0 dot value, right? And this represents what? This represents this should be cast as a string. And now what am I gonna add after this? I'm gonna add a new line, so /n, and then I'm gonna add more stuff. So I'm gonna put string DataGridView dot rows of I dot cells of 1 dot value plus /n. So a single /n represents a new line. Okay, this is the whole idea. So now we are passing passing the values, or copying the values into a big string, and now we can save it. Okay, so here we're going to say system IO file write all text. Okay, and here we need to tell the application where to save that. I'm not sure how to get the default path. Let's see. Oh, there's application.startup path in C# as well. Okay, that's good. So this is gonna get us where the application or the exe is running, and we will add to this a slash, double slash. I'm gonna say to do.txt, and this is gonna be the name of the file. And here we're gonna add vals. It is as simple as that. Okay. And one last thing, we might need to load the information. So here public void load to do. Open this and close it. So I'm going to say string vals equals I'm going to say if system IO file exists, application startup path, and what's the name? Okay, it's all small, to do.txt. Okay, right. So if the file exists, we are gonna load the stuff. Okay, as equals system IO file read all text, and we are gonna read that information. Control C, Control V. We are passing the text, right? And we close this, and yeah. Next, what we need to do is to split. Put a semicolon here. We need next what we need next is to split our values, okay, into a number of lines. So vals, string v equal vals dot split. There's a split method, and we need to pass it a chars separator. So /n. Oh, wait a second. This needs to be what? Yeah. Okay, a string separator. Yeah, I'll put this one. Okay, no problem, I suppose. So this is going to split our string based on the new line entry. And what's wrong with this guy? Oh, one extra. Okay. Now we split this one, and now we are going to loop on the values, but reading each two values together. So int I equals 0, I is smaller than v dot length, and then we have I plus equal 2, so we increase 2 by 2. Next, what are we going to do? We're going to say dgv.rows dot add, and we are going to add v of I followed by v of I plus 1, and there should be a semicolon. Okay, I suppose this is it, and this is all we need to do. Next, we need to call these functions. One at the load event. Where is that? Let's go to form one. I'll double click on here. I'm going to say load to do. And this is it. Next, let's go here. And when we say edit entry, if changes happen, I'm going to say save to do. It's going to save the changes. If I remove anything, I'm going to say save to do as well. And right, are these all the options? Add entry. Oh, if I'm adding anything, I am going to say save to do. Okay, so if I add an entry, I remove it or I edit it, I should save the changes, and that's it. So let's run this, and there are errors. What am I doing wrong? Okay, application. Oh, the AND statement is part of VB. I need to put a plus. My mistake, and I'm sorry about that. And what also do we have? This needs to be a char array, so I'm going to say char ch equal new char of 1. So we have one character. Ch of 0 equals /n semicolon, and here there's going to be ch. Okay, and let's run this, and I have an error, and that should be what's that? The plus cannot be applied to a parent of string of type string. What is the rest of the message? Oh, 2 plus signs, my mistake. So now let's go edit and add entry A and B. Hit OK. Close this and let me run this again. And there's some mistake. The I here is 2. Let me see what's returned in here. Oh, let me stop this for a second. What happens that the split method did its job perfectly, but the problem is that it's adding a VB line. So here I need to put some kind of separator. Sorry, not a separator, but the string split options. One of them is very useful, which allows you to remove empty entries. This will solve our problem, so we don't have to, rely on checking or doing extra things. So here I'm going to run this, and now you see now the load displays our information. Add entry. Press OK. There we go. And I'm going to close the application. I'm going to run it again, and I have the information. I will choose A, B, and select to remove them. And I'm going to close the application, run it again, and I have the information right there. So it's actually now saving and loading without a problem. If you want to see where the file that contains the information is, you can just go and click here and folder on Windows Explorer. Go to bin and go to debug, and there you go. This is the todo.txt. How did this one get generated? Actually, it got generated in the where is the method? It's here in the save to do. So in this one, we are calling this statement. This is So write alt text application startup path. This means get me where the exe is. Okay, and in our case it's running in this path, in the this path, right? And create a file with the name todo.txt. This is the name of the file, and write the values that I've just combined and separated them by new lines. So if you open this one, you see well, the editor cannot display the /n character. Okay, it is not always visible. I think WordPad will can render this file correctly. WordPad. Let's see. I'm gonna close this and drag and drop here. Oops. Delete that one. Sorry. Let's see. Control C and open. Control V. Enter and no. Okay, so you see WordPad can actually render the /n character, but Notepad cannot. So in Notepad you might see it like that, and in WordPad you cannot see the character. I think it needs to be character 10 followed by character 13 or the reverse. I think Notepad needs two characters to display a new line or something like that. Anyway, but just wanted to show you how this is being saved. And what happens at the load, the program is gonna it's gonna do something very simple, which is first it's gonna check if the file exists for startup path to do. If the file exists, this means there are to-do lists or to-do items. So it's gonna read the full file and put that into vals. Next, we are going to create an array that contains one type of splitting chars, and that will be passed to the split method. The split method will use the values here to know how to split this string, and is going to split it based on the /n character. Why /n? Because we used /n to mark the end of a string. Okay. Next, what we did, we also asked this split method to remove any empty entries. Okay, and finally we looped on the entries that we got from splitting the string. And what do we have? We have an array. So we scan these strings and we skip them 2 at a time. Why? Because each entry consists of or each to-do entry consists of two strings. So v of I represent the first string of v, and v of I plus 1 represent the second. Here, if you look at it here, this represents the first string, and this represents the second string. Okay, and finally we just add them to the to-do list. So the application is very simple, very straightforward. It wasn't very hard to build. Yeah, and the point of it was to just show you how we could work with the DataGridView. We worked on this kind of quickly, I think, but I think it's clear. When we want to remove a row from DataGridView, we use the remove method, passing it a row, a full row. When we want to add values, we call the rows and call the add method, which will allows us to specify the parameters to be added. Yeah, for the way we implemented edit, we implemented it kind of strangely, but let me show you. Sorry. For the edit, we removed the old entry and inserted a new one. Actually, you could change the value. You just say DGB selected rows dot cells of 0 dot value equals the first one, and do the same for the second. Well, maybe I could do it here just to show you there are two methods to doing things, right? And I will comment this one. And here I'm gonna say this one dot cells of 0 dot value equals Control C. This will update the first cell Okay, and another one that is very similar is gonna be notes, right? So this one is similar to this one, except that this implementation will remove the row and add it again, so it would go to the end of the to-do list, while this one will keep the row in its correct location. So let's try it out. Let me add something first, and okay, now I'm gonna say edit entry EE2 and hit OK. So you see now it's in its correct location. Let's change this. I'm gonna say edit entry 444 and hit OK and the state. So I think this one's better because the entry stays in its place. There are no changes to the location, which will make things easier to the person who's using the application. Yeah, so this is it for today's tutorial. Hope you'll find this useful. Yeah, hopefully we will start working with something more useful the next set of tutorials. So thanks for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.